Okay, kids, welcome to week 5 of our series on gardening at the Y. And this week we're focusing on composting. And I want to start by calling up a scene from The Lion King. I think it's an old movie, but I think most kids have seen it. You know, like Simba is the little baby cub, and he's following his dad, and his dad says, you get to be king of all this, and he shows him all the land, and Simba says, oh man, I get to be in charge of all that? And his dad says, oh Simba, there's much more to being king than having what you want. And then he goes on to say, everything you see is connected in a delicate balance. And the example he gives is how the lion eats the antelope eats the grass, and then Simba says, or Mufasa, says, when we die, our bodies become the grass. And so it all continues in the great circle of life. So how do bodies become the grass? Well, that's where compost comes in. The verb is decompose. That's where the compost and decompose are united. So decomposition is when you take things apart. Take apart. Compose, put together. So compose means put together. Decompose means take apart. So there are organisms that help dead matter decompose. And one of the very important ones is in this box here. And there are worms in here. Actually, they're not earthworms. They're redworms, which are relatives of earthworms. And you can keep them in a box, and you can see how they help things decompose. Now, I'm going to open it up, and we'll look inside. Now, last week we dumped a bunch of stuff in here, leftover things from when we were cooking. Yum. Let's see if we can see any signs of them. So, first thing I notice is that there are things sprouting in here, which is really interesting to me because the worms only eat dead stuff. And seeds are not dead. They're alive, so the worms know not to eat them. A worm bin is really a pretty good place to sprout things, actually. Not a lot of light, so that's why they're coming up so leggy. But I'm guessing these are maybe cucumber seeds. I don't know what kind of seeds they are, but anyway, they've sprouted in here. Now, if you look and see, this is where I dumped that stuff a week ago, and you can hardly see anything left. Here's the remains. I'm not sure what that. You know what that is, Mark? I can't tell what that is. Usually, I can tell what's. Well, there's a little worm eating on it.
I don't know what that is.
But there's not much left of what I put in here. Here's the shell of an avocado, and they've cleaned it out pretty well. And eventually they'll eat all that too. Let's find some worms here before we go on with our talk. Oh, jackpot. Here you go. So the worms will eat dead, decaying matter, and they will pass it through their bodies, and they will poop it out. And when it comes out the other end, it's this wonderful stuff that we call worm castings. And worm castings is this great plant food. It's full of nutrients. And so what they are doing is making the circle of life happen by transforming the bodies of dead things into things that the grass or other plants can take up and continue the circle. I'm looking for a cocoon. The worms lay eggs, and then the eggs hatch out little baby worms. But the eggs are inside of a thing called a cocoon. Okay, there is a cocoon. It's a little tiny thing, and it's not an egg. It's just the place where their eggs have been laid, and inside of that, 2 or 3 worms will develop and hatch out. The worm itself actually makes that cocoon on a part of its body called the clitellum. Let's see if I can find that. Well, we have to wash this worm off to show it to you. But so, one interesting thing about worms. So, we have 5 senses, right? Can you name them? This is like a kindergarten lesson. Come on, you can name them. We can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can smell, we can touch. How many senses do you think a worm has? Can they see? Nope. Can they hear? Nope. Can they smell? Nope. They don't have a lot going for them in terms of senses, but the ones they have really, really good. So they can taste, they can scent, they can touch. Touch is their main thing. And if you think about it, they're living in the dark. Eyes aren't very useful. They can't see anything anyway. They don't have ears, but they feel vibrations. So if somebody is stomping around on the ground, an earthworm can feel that, which is just as good as hearing. Actually, hearing is really, you get vibrations on your eardrum, so it's kind of the same thing. So the worms sense things. They can sense warm, cold. Can they feel pain? Who knows? A worm has never really told us. But they do a very important job for us. And they're really fun animals to watch and to handle and to dig around and find. And they help every living thing, really, by creating this rich soil that feeds the plants that we all live on. So decomposition is when you take things apart. D, take apart. Compose, put together. So compose means put together. Decompose means take apart. And they will poop it out. And when it comes out the other end, it's this wonderful stuff that we call worm castings. And worm castings is this great plant food